The City of Lacombe Council, Monday, December the 6th. It is 5:30 p.m. Council, you have the agenda before you. There's been one slight adjustment. Item number 2, you can add on to your agendas. Item 2.2, Mr. Cal Berry will be here to speak to us in addition to the first speaker. Other than that, I am open for revisions or motion. Chief Gowdy.
Since this is the first instance where the consent agenda has been used, I want to draw special attention. There is mostly items that are information only, but as per the procedural bylaw, first readings are also included in the consent agenda, unless council chooses to exempt them. So in this instance, it's the tax rate penalty bylaw 379.3, which changes the tax rate penalties almost to the same as pre-COVID levels. There is one adjustment for consistency with some of your other penalties. So if you were to desire 2 instances of discussion on this bylaw or any other that is in the future included on the consent agenda, your opportunities to do so would be either to remove it from the consent agenda tonight, have first and second reading with third reading at a subsequent meeting, or have second reading at your next meeting and delay third reading until the meeting after. Otherwise, you will have only one opportunity, which in this instance, actually, I think is probably fine, but just to remind you of that procedure.
Appreciate that clarification. Anyone else? Councillor Hoekstra. No. Try it one more time. There you go.
Here we go. Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I move to accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you very much. I see no additional hands up for adjustments, so all those in favor? Very good. So we'll move on to section number 2, our open forum. As I said, we have 2 individuals who wish to address council this evening and are familiar with the rules of the open forum. Mr. Rod Craven is first up, and then followed by Mr. Cal Berry, and both are here to speak to us regarding COVID. And I see that we do not have a microphone for those speakers. No, very good. Oh, I'm sorry, that camouflaged into your shirt. I honestly did not see it. Very good. So, very good. I'll just ask that you illuminate it. That means that it's on when you're ready to speak. And that way everyone at home and in the gallery, although there seems to be relatively few this evening, can hear you as well. So you can just keep it fairly close to your mouth. All right. And whenever you choose to start, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Grant. I would like to thank Grant and the City Council for the opportunity to speak on this very important topic. I wish more time was available as this is very necessary. Okay. I would like to start out by reading the Canadian Rights and Freedoms Emergency Act preamble. States clearly that emergency orders cannot and do not supersede the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Canadian Bill of Rights. And whereas the Governor and Council in taking such special temporary measures would be subject to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Canadian Bill of Rights and must have regard to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, particularly with respect to those fundamental rights that are not limited or abridged even in a national emergency. So any mandate that tries to override this is unlawful according to the Canadian Rights and Freedoms Act. That's what I have here. There's also the Canadian Bill of Rights on here, and there's also other public health measures. But this leads right into the Nuremberg directives. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent should be situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion, and should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved as to enable him to make an understanding and enlightened decision. This is in regards to forced vaccinations. According to the Nuremberg codes, that is also unlawful and illegal. So any mandating forced vaccinations on any person is unlawful, of which every country has signed the Nuremberg codes, of which you have a copy of. I won't read it all because I don't have enough time, but that is the basis of the Nuremberg codes. Quickly, what is informed consent? Informed consent is when a healthcare provider like a doctor, nurse, or other healthcare professional explains a medical treatment to a patient before the patient agrees to it. This type of communication lets the patient ask questions and accept or deny any treatment. In a healthcare setting, the process of informed consent includes your ability to make a decision, explanation of information needed to make the decision, your understanding of the medical information, your voluntary decision to get treatment. It includes most surgeries, blood transfusions, anesthesia, radiation, chemotherapy, some advanced medical tests, vaccinations, some blood tests like HIV testing. So anybody that mandates a forced vaccination on you goes against informed consent also. That is pretty clear. I also have the Genetic Non-Discrimination Act, which states, this given royal assent 2017, May 4th. The Supreme Court upheld this in 2020, unconditional right to privacy. The enactment prohibits any person from requiring an individual to undergo a genetic test or disclose the results of a genetic test as a condition of providing goods or services to, entering into, or continuing a contract agreement with, or offering specific conditions in a contract or agreement with the individual. This also, genetic test means a test that analyzes DNA, RNA, or chromosomes for purposes such as the prediction of disease or vertical transmission risks or monitoring diagnosis or prognosis, which is clearly a vaccination.
1 minute.
Thank you. And it is prohibited for any person to require an individual to undergo a genetic test as a condition of providing goods or services to that individual, entering into or continuing a contract or agreement with that individual, or offering or continuing specific terms or conditions in a contract agreement with the individual. It is prohibited for any person to refuse to engage in an activity described in any of the paragraphs in respect of an individual on the grounds that the individual has refused to undergo a genetic test. Now there are, which includes going into a pool, a rec center, everything. A restaurant, you cannot do it. There is more than on this, but I see I have 13 seconds left. I also have a quick thing on masks. There's 47 individual studies here on how masks do not work and how they're harmful to you. You have that. You can read through that. Sorry. Well, not quite, because I could sit here for another 15 minutes and discuss this, Grant. There is so much information.
Well, thank you for bringing that to us.
Okay.
And next up,
I have
Mr. Barry.
some kits if you guys want me to hand them out right now.
That is
You can take home.
completely up to you.
If
Sure.
you want, I'll just hand them out. The big package is for you. Because I didn't have time to photocopy anything that I wanted to hand out, so most of it's in there.
Thank you. And
One of the-
is this for distribution to council or strictly for myself?
You can distribute it however you see fit.
Okay.
Read it, look through it. I've been studying this for 2 years, watching what's going on. Shaking my head. Yes. You know, I don't know what to say at this time. But I'm getting nervous. And, I'm getting a little afraid by the dictatorship that's taking over Canada. So I thought I'd come in Am I ready to rock?
You are just about ready. Thank you for those packages.
Okay,
The floor is yours.
okay. Thank you for letting me speak tonight as well. I'm going to get right down to it because I don't have much time. So on Friday night, I downloaded some stuff by Dr. Ariana Love as of December 13th, 21. Moderna patents have now been confirmed that biochips are in this vaccine. They are made from graphene oxide, graphene hydroxide is also in there, and graphene particulates. And what's annoying me is our government doesn't care. So they just say, who cares, take the shot. Okay, this comes from 7 scientific research teams, including Dr. Campus from University of, I think it's a Maria. And again, I don't know what to say. Health Canada recalled 1.5 million masks because they contain graphene oxide our children are wearing. Who cares? Take the shot and wear the mask. Japan recalled Moderna for containing metal parts. Who cares? Take the shot. 1996 Supreme Court already reached a decision that no mandated forced vaccinations in Canada. Who cares? Take the shot. 22 people, which I have right here, 22 people died in Saskatchewan in August, which is not a cold and flu season, right after they rolled out the vaccine. 9 of which of the 22 that died were double vaxxed. That's 40%. And we're still pretending that this is a safe and effective vaccine. Please, come on. Israel has 85% of all hospitalizations right now are double or triple jabbed. Who cares? Line up your kids now and take the shot. This is all I'm hearing. I'm tired of it. Okay? This shot is considered a leaky vaccine. They tell you that right on their sheet, which is right here in front of me. I can read it verbatim. As with, this is the Canadian government, Pfizer BioNTech. As with any vaccine, Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine may not fully protect all those who receive it. Even after you have had both doses of the vaccine, continue to follow the recommended local health officials to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And the reason they say that is because it's not a sterilizing vaccine. It's a leaky vaccine. Okay, so as per Stats Canada, if you read through here, it's right on, I just pulled this off as of December 3rd, 1,795,995 cases, confirmed cases in Canada with 29,716 deaths. If you divide those two, you get 0.078% is your chance of dying from this so-called virus, okay? If you divide that by, that's the total, 29,716 by 38 million people gives you that number. If you divide it by that other number, you get 1.6%. That's not a pandemic. Okay, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Please understand, I'm pro-science. I'm tired of this, and I'm watching our country go down in flames to communism. I'm done with this, okay? So now you've got also in Alberta, same thing. 4.371 million people divided by 3,257 deaths as of Friday. 3,200 people, as tragic as that is. I hate to see that. And of course, they never received any treatment. They never received proper treatment. I won't even have time to go into it. So if you divide that, that's 0.074% of dying. If you do the math, 336,000 confirmed cases, 3,200 and deaths is 0.969% chance of dying. Does that sound like a pandemic to anybody? Because it sure doesn't to me. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying we're being lied to. Okay? Now, the reason I bring this up, because I want this passport system scrapped. It's illegal, unlawful, and it's ridiculous. I'm not going around town showing my vaccine status to nobody, period. So that being said, I wanted to flip over here.
1 minute.
Christine Massey. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's got 139 institutions, 25 countries, 38 requests from Canada for FOI requests. No virus has been found on or any proper procedure. Okay, you can look her up at fluoridefreepeel.ca. Who cares? Take the shot. They say Dr. Dennis Rancourt, PhD, all-cause mortality. All-cause mortality is flatline in Canada, which means there was no spike. If we had excess death, there would be a giant spike. There's nothing. It's flat. So he's saying there is no pandemic in Canada. Okay. The VAERS report, miscarriages, 2996. This is out of the USA. Dead as of December 3rd, 18,853. Permanently disabled, 30,010. Hospitalized, 94,537. Adverse events, 894,143. Who cares? Take the shot. World Health Organization, total ADRs, as per the VC Access, 2,457,386. Not one mention of natural immunity or antibodies at all. What is happening to Canada? Thank you. I have way more.
So do I.
Thank you, Mr. Berry.
I just want to thank you guys for your time, and I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I just want democracy.
You're obviously passionate about this, and we appreciate
Very.
you bringing it to us.
And I got more if you want it.
Hopefully you can take it to other forums, perhaps at the provincial or federal level, and reiterate the same information. So thank you
Well,
very much.
I believe it starts here, so.
Yes, yeah, it has to start here. We have to start somewhere. We start small, grow big. The American Revolution was started by dumping tea in the Boston Harbor. We start this also, but it takes guts and it's gonna take courage.
We gotta link arms. I want to link arms. I know the mayor in Drumheller very well. I also know the ex-mayor in Hannah very well. They're on board with what I'm talking about. So we can link arms, communities link arms, go, wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's enough.
Thank you both.
Okay, thank you, Council.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so we have adopted the agenda. We've opened forum now with respect to the consent agenda. Item 3.2. Does anyone have any items they wish to see removed from the consent agenda? Because if there is not, I will require a motion to accept. Councillor Connick.
So move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Councillor Hoekstra? No, we could. That's what your red light is for. Unfortunately, we've already voted on it, but if you have
I
something,
didn't vote because I was wanting to. Anyhow, procedure, sorry. Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just, so if we have a question about how does that, like, I'm just not saying that it has to be pulled out of this agenda. There was 2 people at the last meeting that were not recorded in the minutes. Do the public get recorded in our minutes? I just needed to. They do not. Okay, so that was my question. I just had it. So.
thank you. So if we move over to early for public hearings, let's go to Chief Gowdy. Obviously, we need to move into requests for decisions. It would make no sense to do the first one. So I think that our capital budget, would that be a reasonable continuation of our meeting?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
That would be a good.
I
next
would
spot.
turn everybody's focus then to item 6.2 and ask that Senior Manager McKinnon take us through our capital budget review. Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor Creasy and Council. I'm here to present the 2022 capital budget for Council's consideration to adopt. The capital budget was first presented on September 27, then discussed during the November 8th and 9th budget workshops and revised for November 22nd council meeting. This version of the capital budget represents a decrease of $73,000 from the draft presented to Council on November 22nd. The latest adjustments made to the 22 capital budget include removal of $8,000 for the DVR at the Lacombe Fire Services and capital works program reduction of $65,000, which consists of a combination of a $120,000 decrease for the removal of the design for Wolf Creek Bridge replacement and an increase offsetting of $55,000 for the remediation work on Wolf Creek Bridge. The total expenditure is estimated to be $10.17 million. The proposed capital budget will be funded by $7.5 million from grants, 2.43 million from reserve withdrawals, and 150,000 from other contributions. The City of Lacomb's revised 2022 capital budget consists of 30 projects, which are listed in the report. Further details for all the proposed projects can be found in the attached project summaries. For the 2022 capital budget, a column beside each capital project indicates what the financial impact will be on the operating budget. Administration recommends that Council adopt the revised 2022 capital budget. And I'm happy to take any questions or feedback from Council on the budget.
Here's an interesting flaw that we didn't know existed, isn't it? Thank you for that, Senior Manager McKinnon. We had a couple of lights on here. I'll give the floor to Councillor Kotick.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Manager McKinnon, can you just remind me what's in the community builder fund, please? I think it's 100,000. Sorry, I didn't bring the reserve balances with me. I'm just curious.
Oh, just, yeah, 1 second.
It's just in relation to, I know this is the capital budget, but I was just thinking about the Len Thompson fish pond thing. If we decide to maybe pursue that, maybe those funds can come out of there as opposed to if we approve the capital budget tonight, it's probably too late, but I was just wondering. Thank you.
It'll take me a couple of minutes to find it. Sorry, I don't have it handy.
So if I
Go ahead.
could, just while Manager McKinnon is finding that, I think it's actually between 100 and 150, but we'll wait for her to confirm. The one thing about the Community Builder Fund is it has a restriction of up only 25% of the funds coming from city sources. So it can pay for up to 25% and the other 75% can't be from city sources. The presentation from the group indicated 3 different price points, one at 80,000, which required no contribution from the municipality. A second stage, which if I recall was about 160 to 180, which required about 40 to 50,000 from each of Lacombe and Lacombe County was their desire. Or a third, the best option product wise was 80,000 approximately from each municipality. And so at that third level, the community building fund would not be a suitable sole source of city contribution to make that happen. Option 2, yes, would be approximately the right fit for the community builder fund.
Councillor Ross, was your question or comment directed at Senior Manager McKinnon? no?
Yes, possibly.
Okay, I will have you hold off on that one while she.
Well, I think CO Gowdy, I was furthermore the capital building fund pertaining to our strategic planning discussions was to have a kind of part B of community builder for in the event if a community organization or board or committee was to put on a major event. For example, what is being researched with the Pinties with culture and tourism. Would that have to be set up yet as another separate reserve, or would it be together with the current community builder fund?
Chief Gowdy?
So you could do that 2 ways. You could either go for a separate dedicated fund, or you could modify the terms of reference for the existing community builder fund to expand it to include event support or targeted event, something other than capital. You could revisit those terms of reference.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Go
if I
ahead.
could go further with that. So should we, are we gonna have the same terms or guidelines to an event versus the current conditions or whatever with the current community builder, or do we discuss a reserve amount tonight, considering that prior to passing this budget? Or because we also have eliminated some things, do we decide on that? Obviously is an issue.
Chief Gowdy?
My preference administratively would be pass the budget. And then when we come in with the surplus amount at the end of the year, which we are anticipating several $100,000 of surplus, then look at setting up a fund at that time, because you'll be looking at distributing it into different reserves when you're doing that. And so you might at that time say, this would be a great time to kickstart that event reserve with whatever amount you might want to put in it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think that's all I wanted was direction to the best suit the administration, so.
Senior Manager McKinnon, thank you. It looks like you maybe have some additional information for us. Go ahead, please.
Yes, the balance in the community builder fund will be 150,000 minus what we've committed this year, which he might be able to add that number. I think it's 25,000 or so that we've committed this year.
Sorry, just over 20. I think it was 20 and change.
So the balance would be 150 minus, it'd be about 130,000 as Chief Gowdy said.
Councillor Connick, was that the information you were after? Very good. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So with, I think, all the information provided and intentions of council pertaining to the other community builder, I think I would like to make a motion to, what the heck? Sorry, I was in the alternate instead of the first one. There we are. The council adopt the 2022 capital budget as presented.
Thank you. I had one question with respect to the Public Works building. The operating impact is listed here as 186,000 and a $4 million capital cost. What specifically is the $186,000 to address?
Oh, sorry.
Seems like we're down to 2 max somehow, so I'll have to, but it is to address the debt servicing associated with the borrowing of that $4 million.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any additional items? Everybody's clear on the motion before us? All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. So a little bit of bouncing around. I've got 5:58 by my count. And we are to have a public hearing at 6 p.m. So I don't think that really gives us enough time to start another item. Would be rather cumbersome to get partway through and quit. So So I refer everyone to section 5, public hearings for bylaw 400.37, the blind man tap room, and the associated land use bylaw amendment. So as mayor, I declare the statutory public hearing for bylaw 400.37 open, and that this hearing is held pursuant to sections 7, 8, 230, 692, and 606, Part 2C of the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M26, and request the legislative coordinator to confirm the purpose of this public hearing, and that the statutory public hearing notice was advertised, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package are now read into the record. Coordinator Balabono.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Mayor Creasy and Council, the purpose of the public hearing is to allow the general public to provide input and express their views on land use bylaw 400.37, given first reading November 22nd, 2021. Bylaw 400.37 proposes to allow accessory use for the microbrewery major with a footprint of no more than 200 meters square indoor, as well as a seasonal outdoor patio of no more than 100 50 meters square as a permitted use on lot 1A Block 5, Plan 202-0112 in the I-2 Heavy Industrial District. The subject site is 3413 53rd Avenue and is shown outlined in the dashed line on the map. Mayor Creasy and Council, 4 written submissions were received and have been included in the agenda package.
Thank you, Coordinator Balabono. Appreciate that. Just remind that all persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name, and presentations are to be brief and to the point. The order of the statutory public hearing presentation will be as follows: the development officer or designate, followed by those in favor, followed by those opposed, and lastly, any person deemed to be affected and who wishes to be heard. So if I could call on our development officer, which I think Manager Hackett is here with us this evening. The floor is yours.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mayor Creasy, members of council. I will just try and share my screen with you. Hopefully that works. So we are discussing tonight Land Use Bylaw Amendment 400.37 for prior to consideration of second and third reading. The purpose of Land Use Bylaw Amendment 400.37 is requesting an amendment to the I-2 Heavy Industrial District, and we just discussed this in November, so I'll just go through it fairly quickly, just to refresh your memories. This is an adjustment, a request for an adjustment to an existing site exception for the property at 3413 53rd Avenue, located in the Wolf Creek Industrial Park. And the request, the purpose of it is to allow for a larger accessory use that would be used for a tap room and seasonal outdoor patio. The property is shown here, outlined in blue, and there is an existing site exception on this property in the land use bylaw at this time. In terms of the amendment, Blind Man Brewing is the owner of this property, and they have made a request to expand the allowable footprint of their tap room and seasonal outdoor patio from the current site exception maximum, which is 140.45 square meters, up to the 200 meters indoor and an additional 150 square meters for the outdoor, totaling 350 square meters. Now, if approved, the exception would apply only to this site. So if Blind Man were to open another location, it would not apply to that property, or it doesn't apply to any others in the I-2 district, for example. In terms of accessory use, this is, I guess, an important element to point out, because in the case of Blind Man Brewing, the industrial manufacture of beer is considered the principal use. And then the tap room and retail sales are considered accessory or subordinate to that principal use. And so the I-2 district certainly does set out the uses, but also in the land use bylaw, section 810, which is titled Food Production and Microbrewery Facilities, also sets out some additional regulations, and it limits the size of the accessory portion of a microbrewery in terms of drinking establishments in industrial areas to just 50 square meters. And that is in the land use bylaw to ensure that these uses remain accessory to the principal use. So anytime that a use wants a larger drinking establishment, larger than the 50 square meters in an industrial area, they do require a site exception. So in 2018, Blind Man Brewing came forward for that site exception that they currently have, and that was approved as bylaw 400.12. The requests now, they've grown even more than they had in 2018. And so the current request, the microbrewery, the building is over 1,000 square meters. So they've grown their main use. They're producing more beer. They have a larger building, or they've expanded into the rest of the building. And so the accessory uses, even by increasing the size, they would still remain subordinate in terms of size. And certainly conditions may be placed on this expansion at the time that development permits are applied for. And those could relate, for example, to parking and requiring a parking review or additional parking information. But that would be dealt with at the time of the development permit. Additional changes council may recall that were discussed at the time of first reading is updating the legal description for this property as well. It has changed since 2018 and the legal description in the land use bylaw is outdated. Clarifying that the site exception is a permitted use rather than allowed, just for clarification. And it was approved as permitted under 400.12. And adjusting the type of use to microbrewery major, because it is written in the land use bylaw right now as minor, and Blind Man Brewing is, based on their production levels, is now a microbrewery major. So based on no recorded land use conflicts with the existing tap room. So over the years that they've been operating, we have no record of any land use conflicts being reported on this site based on their ability to address parking concerns at the time of development permit application. Recognizing that their primary use, the microbrewery, has grown in size, and so it's reasonable to expect that the accessory use might also seek to expand. And noting that the microbrewery major, the only districts in the city that these can operate in are industrial land use districts. So there really isn't an opportunity to move to a different district. It is recommended that council support, following the public hearing, support second and third reading of proposed land use bylaw amendment 400.37 as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Hackett. Appreciate that. I would now ask that anyone speaking or wishing to speak in favor of land use bylaw 400.37 to come forward now. And given that we do have several individuals that have joined us online, I would ask our legislative coordinator if there is anyone in the queue electronically that wishes to speak to this item. And while she's figuring, go ahead.
Sorry, Mary Creasy, there is no one in the queue to speak on the public hearing for bylaw 400.37.
Very good, thank you. And we do have one individual in the gallery, and I would ask at this time if he wishes to speak in favor of this item. I would think that he may. Mr. Doofhans, the floor is yours. Just turn on your mic there so the light is red. And you're welcome to remove your mask if you prefer.
Hello, council members. We at Blind Man are thankful to be part of this community and have been able to grow in many ways throughout the last 6 years. Council and the city have been supportive of our growth and have seen the positive effects of our business in our community, from increasing jobs, bringing more revenue into the community, and supporting the community in many, many other ways. This necessary process is part of our next step as a business. We desire to renovate our taproom to keep this growth trend going, to increase job opportunities within our business, bringing in more tourism to the community and creating a new fresh space for the community to gather. Our taproom will not be increasing our occupancy drastically. With COVID being our new normal, we desire to make more space for our patrons to enjoy a pint in a comfortable setting. Thank you for your time and consideration. And thanks also to Nancy and the Development Office for being a positive help through this process.
Thank you very much. Coordinator Balabono.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. If we could just have the person speaking in favor state his name for the record.
Sorry.
We certainly can. That was my fault. Hans, please state your name for the record.
My name's Hans Doof.
And even though there is no one else here, I'm going to ask one more time if there is anybody who wishes to speak in favor of bylaw 400.37. Seeing none, I would ask that I'll stop my alarm for the public hearing to start on time. And I'll ask if there's anyone that wishes to speak in opposition to 400.37. And as there is no one else in the gallery or joining us electronically, I will ask any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard to step forward. And there are none, so I will declare the public hearing for bylaw 400.37 closed at this time. which is 609. It will be reflected in our minutes. And just so that I do not mess up any items here for an upcoming resolutions, we can now move on to request for decision. Item 6.1, which is bylaw 400.37, the Blind Man Tap Room Land Use Bylaw Amendment. Manager Hackett, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy, members of council. As stated, the recommendation based on administrative support is that council give second and third reading to bylaw amendment 400.37 as presented. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 400.37 as presented.
Thank you. Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I know it's not normal, but I'm wondering if I can ask Hans a question. I think it's time for another tour out there because I don't know, I was there a long time ago, but so the distillery that was there is gone? You've taken the whole thing? Okay. So you absorb them into your business or they're just gone?
Yeah, no, certainly you go ahead. I'm sure others will be interested, so I'll just have you turn your mic on.
The distillery has been out of business for about 3 years. Yeah.
Obviously been a lapse in research. Anyone else? With respect to second reading, all those in favor? I see none opposed. That is unanimous. Anybody for consideration of third reading? Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that council give third reading to bylaw 400.37 as presented.
Thank you. Any additional comments or concerns? All those in favor? And that is unanimous as well. Mr. Doof, thank you very much for your entrepreneurial spirit here in our city. I can say that it is quite exciting for myself as a mayor to be able to travel to other areas of our province. And while our community is known for many things, your company name often comes up. So thank you for that, making it so recognizable. And the work that you do throughout the community and with the Thompson Ballister Bait Company, the originator of the world's biggest lure, the cooperative work that you two do together benefits everyone. And I want to thank you publicly for that. Okay, so I think that we will move on to item 6.3, the 2022 operating budget and 3-year operating plan, and call upon Senior Manager McKinnon to take us through that item.
Thank you. Tonight I'm presenting City of Lacomb's proposed 2022 operating budget and 2022 to 2024 financial plan. On August 16th, 2021, Council provided direction to administration to prepare the 2022 budget with a 2.7% tax rate increase and a 1% special paving tax. The proposed 2022 budget includes a 2.7% tax increase, 1% special paving tax, and a 2.7% utility rate increase. These increases fall within the Alberta Consumer Price Index limits set by the Council policies for compensation and annual budget and taxation. The first draft of the operating budget was presented to Council on October 25th. The budget details were reviewed by departments and Council during the November 8th and 9th budget workshops. The revised operating budget was presented on November 22nd during a council meeting. There was a $80,000 increase in revenue and expenditures from the first draft to the one presented on November 22nd. The total change during that time was a combination of an $86,000 increase in utility supported operations and a $6,700 decrease in tax supported operations. The details of these changes are now included in the report. The 3-year financial plan 2022-2024 is shown in Appendix 2. Council must adopt the first year in the financial plan as the operating budget, which is 2022. The following 2 years, 2023 and 2024, are for information only. The 3-year plan aligns with the provincial and federal requirements for multi-year financial planning. In conclusion, administration is requesting that council adopts the 2022 budget as presented and receives the 2022 to 2024 financial plan as information. Are there any questions? And if so, I'm happy to help answer them.
Appreciate that, Manager McKinnon. So just to refresh our memory then, the consumer price index was what for the period? Is it July that we take the number from, or is that a median from the entire year?
It's just July.
Just July.
Actually. And actually functionally what it ends up being is June 30th, because they don't do it for July 1st, which is what your policy specifically says. So often you'll see us quoting the June number, even though the policy says July. It's just because the policy timelines don't line up with the calculation of CPI. So it was 2.7. If you took an average, actually, it would be higher than that over the last year. And there is some concerns in the macro economy in Canada about inflation, whether it's a transient effect or not. So I think if anything, an average would show slightly higher than 2.7.
Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it. Council, any questions, concerns? Councillor Hoekstra?
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I move that council adopts the 2022 operating budget as presented.
Thank you. I guess just to be completely open to the public who will be watching this portion, I fully acknowledge that the 1.7 road tax certainly falls outside of our self-imposed CPI measurement stick. However, this is the one item that I think that we do definitely get the most positive input from the community about, is about our road work and road maintenance over the past couple of years, and can assure you that those monies will definitely be used towards nothing but that. And given the work that was done to assess all of the roads and put together in a report, that these monies are most definitely required, and to expect these to come from regular operations over the next decade or two are just unfortunately cannot be done. So this is one of the ways that I try and justify it in my own mind, that we are in fact keeping our tax increases as low as they possibly can, and while acknowledging that the special road tax of the 1.7% is certainly beyond the CPI measurement stick that we have been using. Chief Gowdy?
You did mention 1.7 for the road tax a couple of times, and it is just 1%, just as a.
Thank you very much for that. I had the 2.7 on my mind for the CPI, and thank you for that correction. Anyone? Councillor Hoekstra made a motion then. We're all good, and we don't need it read back to us. All those in favor? Very good. I think for someone watching this at home, they might think that this was precious little discussion over something as important as this. However, let it be known that we have spent many hours and had much debate over all of these items at great length that go into producing our annual budget. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. There's two motions there, so I would go ahead and move that council receive the 2022-2024 year financial plan as information.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously as well. We have no notices of motion. Certainly, we have some in-camera items to attend to. However, I'll just draw everyone's eyes down to the bottom of the page for our next meetings and let everyone know at home that all of these meetings are at 5:30 p.m. here at City Hall and our regular council meetings. The first one of the new year, January 10th. Then on Monday, January 24th. And again on Monday, February 14th. So given this was our first official consent agenda evening, I just wanted to ensure that I hadn't missed any items. Is anybody aware of any items that have been missed on the agenda? Very good. So I believe that just leaves us with the in-camera items. Councillor Connick?
Better get a motion before Councillor Hooks takes them all. Motion to move in camera.
Thank you for that. The record reflected is 6:21 and the motion was made to move in camera. All those in favor?